I am here with Matt Mireles. Matt, you were, I met you sort of through journalism in the journalism community, and what you're doing, I think, is very, very tangentially related to the flow of information, but it's somewhat shifted. You are now, I think, full-blooded entrepreneur. Can you tell me
Yes.
a little bit about the shift that you made? Because it was a very conscious shift, I think, on your part from where you were and your relationship with journalism to your relationship with your startup now.
Yeah, no, totally. I think I was always a very entrepreneurial journalist, and I loved the freedom of like being able to run around and and the kind of journalism I wanted to do was very much like long form magazine writing and stuff, where you can really just run around and like do your own thing for like a while or a long time. Um, And and I always really chafed at the whole sort of like newsroom hierarchy. Like I did not like I avoided that as much as possible. Um, but even then, like I as a journalist, I was never comfortable entirely with the role of like being the sort of like impartial observer. Um, I in addition to being a journalist, I had like fought forest fires, and I was like a paramedic and like Harlem and the Bronx. And so for me, like action, like there was like always this tension between storytelling, which I loved, and like creating a narrative and sort of like that creative process, and like also doing stuff and executing and being an operator. Um, and so when I discovered the journalism world or the entrepreneurial community, the startup world, um, it was, and I heard about sort of like the crazy adventures of people. I was like, oh my god, this is like what I was made for. This is what I was looking for. And so for me, it was just sort of like I feel like a lot of my, I'm 29 now. I spent a lot of my 20s searching for the thing that was like my thing. Like I wanted adventure, I wanted excitement, but I wanted to like be creative and like use my brain. But I also, wanted to kind of be like scrappy, and like I didn't the whole sort of like corporate world. That's not really my shtick. And startups. I don't come from a family. Well, I mean, I guess my brother's an entrepreneur, but my father was like an academic. And I never really, we're never really capitalists. And so I just something that never had occurred to me before. And when I discovered it and started hearing about it and hearing about people like changing the world, and how I've been using, taking apart computers and doing shit on computers since I was like 9. So yeah, I mean, becoming an entrepreneur is like this is what I was made for. Like all that other stuff was like me still trying to find this thing. I think
Interesting.
that's how I feel about it at this point.
So, two more questions come to mind. One is, well, are there any? Is there anything that you keep from when you were a reporter or a journalist that helps you? I mean, you're the founder and CEO of SpekerText, which is your startup. And in the sort of day to day of being a reporter, are there things that have stuck with you in the day to day of running SpekerText?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a I am a life hacker, but I'm not a computer hacker at this point. I'm not a coder or programmer. I'm not technical. And big part of I think my value and what I do is I tell a story about speaker text, about what we're doing. And the way I always frame it, well, not always, but the way I've learned to frame it after freaking 3 years of pitching this idea is it's like the internet is this web of text documents that are hyperlinked together, right? That's just like what the internet is. And been this explosion in online video over the last 10 years. But in many ways, it doesn't have text and it doesn't really get linked to. So it's functionally dark web. It's the dark web of the internet is video. So what we're doing is we're building that missing text layer and linking layer in the online video stack, right? That's a story, and that sort of like skill set and the ability to tell that to when it's getting co-founders, customers, investors, whoever, you know, that's that's what I do. I tell a story about why this is like going to change the world, and that's directly correlates to journalism. And at this point, a lot of how I've gotten on the map is through my blog, and so people, my co-founder M2, Matt Swanson, M1. I'm M1. He's M2.
Okay,
Like someone, I became friends with someone. The person who introduced us, I became friends with when after they were following my blog on Hacker News, and they hit me up on Twitter at some point when I was in Palo Alto visiting, and so that so much of that, and that ability to tell a story, that's comes straight from my journalism background. And I'm very grateful to have that skill set and to be able to sort of like do that and like have that sort of narrative eye that comes from that. So,
last question. So a lot of people make the shift into starting up a website, and more, some of them are reporters or journalists. Do you have any advice for people who in general want to make that switch, but also specifically for journalists who want to make that switch?
Yeah, I mean, for one, the obvious, right? Social media is your friend, and it's all about engaging with the community and, using your skills. I think the hardest thing is finding a co-founder and finding partners, especially if you don't have the technical expertise. And when you're a nobody, your chances that you can, find somebody who's really high quality or committed or whatever, it's a hard thing to do. So building up a personal brand and online reputation, whatever you want to call it, that, and being someone that people know. And if people Google you when they meet you, or maybe they heard about you, like, oh, that guy, okay, they're smart, they're cool. That's really important. And engaging with the community, just being out there, being known. And I guess the other thing is that the people you want have, the best people have a lot of respect for themselves. And there's a tendency sometimes, I think, amongst non-technical people to view technical talent as a commodity. Oh, we just need like a coder, just grab one, like a tomato or something, and there'll be some people, and like if you take that approach, you can quickly hire a mercenary force, and mercenaries cost money. And what you want is co-founders, and co-founders need respect and loyalty, and it's not because I don't. It's not about the money. We live in fucking speaker cave. Like 3 guys in a 2-bedroom apartment. And so respect the engineers, understand what they do and the nuances and the differences, and be able to talk with them, and you can't just outsource that. You have to be a product person. You can't just be like, oh, I'll get a coder and then they'll take care of the website. I'll take care of the business. Like that doesn't work.
Right.
So engage the community, respect and show deference to technical talent because it is not a commodity, and also do as much as you can to learn. Ideally, if you can pick up a book and start coding, and but just really understand how that works. If you get a really good person, they'll be like, "Bah, your coding sucks," and maybe I'll do it better. But even if you take those steps, I think just to get started, that's what I tell people, at least. It's the best way.
Cool.
At least based on my experience.
Matt Mireles from SpekerText. Check it
Thanks, man.
out.